Have you ever asked yourself why some women always seem to attract the most loving, respectful, emotionally available men, while others constantly find themselves heartbroken, ignored, or left wondering what went wrong? It's a painful question, but it's one that cuts deep because it speaks to something we all crave: to be seen, to be chosen, and to be deeply valued for who we are. If you've ever felt like you give your heart fully, only to be met with silence, confusion, or disappointment, you're not alone. It's one of the most vulnerable places a person can be, questioning your worth based on how someone else treats you. But here's the truth. It's not your appearance, your job, or your status that determines the quality of love you receive. It's your energy, your habits, and the way you show up for yourself that shape your entire love life. Too often, women are told to just be patient or try harder. They're taught to chase validation, to mold themselves into what someone else wants, or to wait for love like it's some kind of prize handed out at random. But real, lasting love isn't random. It's attracted. It's earned by the way you value yourself, and it begins far before you ever meet anyone else. The women who consistently draw in kind, driven, emotionally secure men aren't perfect, but they do something differently. They live differently. And the shift they make isn't on the outside. It starts deep within. Their power doesn't come from chasing love. It comes from becoming someone who no longer settles for anything less than what they truly deserve. If you've been attracting people who don't match your heart, it's not because you're broken. It's not because you're too much or not enough. It's because somewhere along the way you were taught to ignore your own value. And when you forget your value, you start attracting people who reflect that forgetting. But the beautiful thing is, this can change, starting now. Not by playing games, not by becoming someone else, but by finally stepping into the woman you were always meant to be. The kind who knows her worth, protects her peace, and walks in alignment with her truth. The kind who attracts, not chases. The kind who chooses herself first and invites love to meet her there. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 3 powerful habits these women embody, habits that are backed by emotional intelligence, grounded confidence, and a deep sense of self-respect. These aren't tricks, they're truths. And when you start living them, everything changes. Because when you show up with a strong, open heart and a clear sense of your worth, the wrong people lose access, and the right ones finally find their way in. So if you're ready to break the cycle, to stop settling, and to become the kind of woman who naturally draws in the best men, stay with me. This isn't about them, it's about you. And your life is about to change. Most people misunderstand what truly attracts lasting love. They believe it's about charm, timing, or luck. They think they need to look a certain way, act a certain way, or keep pretending not to care. But that approach always leads to exhaustion and emptiness. Because when you're not connected to your truth, no connection will ever feel safe. No relationship will ever feel like home. The women who draw in deeply devoted, emotionally mature men are not playing a role. They're not chasing approval. They're living from a place of deep internal alignment. They've done the inner work that most people avoid. And that's exactly why they're magnetic. It begins with how they see themselves. Before anyone else lays eyes on them, they've already claimed their own worth. Not because someone told them they're valuable. Not because someone chose them. But because they made a decision to stop shrinking, to stop begging, to stop performing for love. They decided to choose themselves. That decision changes everything. It shifts the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the way you respond when something feels off. When you believe in your worth, you no longer tolerate confusion. You no longer stay silent when your heart feels unsettled. You walk away, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. The energy you bring into every interaction tells the world how to treat you. And the truth is, you teach people how to value you based on how you value yourself. The most attractive energy in the world is someone who isn't looking for someone else to fix them. Someone who brings emotional stability, clarity, and purpose into the room. That kind of presence is unforgettable. It calms the nervous system. It creates space for real connection. It allows the right person to lean in, not out of pressure, but out of respect and desire. When you stop needing someone to make you feel loved, you become love. You become the source of peace, not the seeker of it. That shift changes the way you date. It changes the way you listen. It changes the way you choose. No more falling for potential. No more hoping someone becomes who you need them to be. You stop chasing the promise of love and start attracting the reality of it. There is no magic formula, but there is truth. And the truth is this: the energy you build within becomes the experience you attract. The moment you decide to stop settling for less than your heart deserves, the world responds. Not all at once, not perfectly, but powerfully. You stop aligning with chaos. You stop craving validation. You start moving with quiet confidence. That confidence is the foundation of every great love story, not a mask, not arrogance, but the kind of knowing that whispers, I am already enough. And from that place, you don't chase love, you rise into it. You let it meet you at the level you've already claimed for yourself. Emotional wholeness is not the absence of pain, it's the presence of self-awareness. It's knowing your wounds without letting them control your worth. It's feeling your fears without letting them drive your decisions. The women who attract the best men are not fearless, they are honest. They have stopped pretending. They've looked within, faced the mirror, and decided that they are worthy of love that doesn't require them to bleed for it. They've realized that no man can complete a soul that hasn't been claimed by its owner. So they've chosen to become whole, not because they had to, but because they refuse to be divided ever again. They understand something most don't. Emotions are messengers, not masters. When sadness comes, they allow it. When disappointment knocks, they meet it with grace. They don't suppress their emotions or use them to manipulate others. They listen to them. They move through them. They heal without hardening. That emotional honesty creates a calm, grounded presence. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't seek to be rescued. It invites real connection because it feels safe. And safety is the root of attraction that lasts. Chaos might excite people for a moment, but peace is what they stay for. When a woman lives from emotional wholeness, she doesn't rely on someone else to stabilize her. She doesn't hand over the keys to her joy, her peace, or her identity. She knows who she is. And because she knows, she doesn't panic when someone else doesn't. She doesn't shrink when someone questions her worth. She doesn't collapse when love doesn't look the way she expected. She knows what she brings to the table, and that knowing protects her from accepting crumbs. High-quality men feel the difference. They're drawn to the calm in her voice, the steadiness in her energy, the lack of drama in her presence. She's not perfect, but she's emotionally clear. That clarity is rare, and rare is attractive. When a woman is emotionally whole, her relationships shift. She doesn't beg for reassurance. She doesn't turn conflict into crisis. She communicates. She listens. She holds space, but she also holds boundaries. She gives love, not to earn it, but because it overflows from within. This kind of strength cannot be faked. It has to be built, slowly, intentionally, through choices that honor your emotions without letting them define you, through healing that doesn't rush but commits, through the decision to show up with grace even when things don't go your way. That emotional depth becomes a signal, and only those who are capable of meeting you in that space will feel safe enough to come close. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not too deep. You are simply ready to stop being fragmented. You are ready to become whole. And in that wholeness, you will stop chasing what is unstable. Because what is meant for you will no longer need to be pursued. It will be drawn to the stillness you've built within. There's a quiet kind of power in a woman who knows how to protect her standards, not in anger, not in arrogance, but with calm, consistent self-respect. She doesn't raise her voice to be heard. She doesn't threaten, beg, or chase. She simply holds her line, and in doing so, she filters out everything that isn't aligned with her worth. This kind of power is not about control, it's about clarity. It's about having the courage to decide what you will and will not allow into your life, and standing by that decision even when it's lonely, especially when it's lonely. Because the space you clear by walking away from what's wrong makes room for what's right. When a woman has standards rooted in self-love, she becomes unshakable. She doesn't confuse attention with affection. She doesn't mistake effort for intention. She sees through the noise. She listens to patterns, not promises. She doesn't fall for potential because she's already grounded in her own. And that grounded energy, that unwavering sense of what she deserves, becomes her filter. It's not about being cold. It's not about being unapproachable. It's about being unavailable to anything that dishonors her. Standards are not rules. They are boundaries shaped by self-awareness. They are reflections of what you've learned, what you've healed from, and what you refuse to repeat. A woman with strong standards isn't difficult. She's discerning. She knows that love is not measured by how much pain she's willing to endure. It's measured by the peace it brings, the safety it offers, the growth it encourages. So she doesn't entertain confusion. She doesn't cling to someone who keeps her guessing. She walks away from situations that disturb her peace, not because she doesn't care, but because she cares about herself more. That level of discipline is magnetic, not because it's harsh, but because it's rare. It tells the world she values her time, her energy, and her heart. And the right man doesn't run from that. He rises to meet it, Because real love isn't intimidated by high standards, it's honored by them, it feels safe in their presence, it thrives in their clarity, it builds in their consistency. Holding your standard is not about being perfect. It's about being loyal to your growth. It's about knowing that the version of you who once tolerated chaos is gone. She did her job, she learned the hard way, and now you're ready to love from a place of wisdom. A place where you no longer shrink to be accepted, where you no longer twist yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You know who you are, you know what you bring, and you're done proving it to people who don't recognize it. This is your power, not in how loud you speak, but in how silently you walk away. Not in how much you give, but in how well you protect what's sacred. And in doing so, you no longer chase love. You allow it to arrive, shaped by the very same standard you refuse to lower. There is something undeniable about a woman who lives in full alignment with her truth. She doesn't shift her identity to fit into someone else's world. She doesn't silence her voice to avoid rejection. She honors her authenticity, even when it feels risky, even when it means standing alone, because she understands that pretending is a betrayal, not of others, but of herself, and she refuses to betray herself for temporary validation. Her truth isn't a performance. It's a presence, and that presence, raw and unfiltered, becomes the very thing that draws the right people in. Alignment is not about perfection. It's about honesty. It's about making choices that reflect who you truly are, not who you think you need to be. When you live from alignment, you don't have to chase anything. You don't have to impress. You don't have to control outcomes. You simply become someone who naturally attracts what is meant for her, because nothing is more powerful than someone who is fully rooted in her own essence. She doesn't compromise her values to be chosen. She doesn't abandon herself to be loved. She knows that anything requiring her to leave herself behind is not love. It's performance dressed up as connection. Living in alignment means trusting your inner voice more than outside noise. It means saying no when your spirit says no, even if your heart wants to say yes. It means listening to the discomfort that rises when something doesn't feel right, and acting on it. Because ignoring that voice is the fastest way to lose yourself. And once you've lost yourself, no relationship, no connection, no amount of attention will feel safe. Nothing will feel fulfilling if it costs your peace. The women who live in alignment radiate a different kind of energy. They don't have to speak loudly. They don't have to explain themselves. Their actions speak for them. Their boundaries are clear, not because they're defensive, but because they've done the work to understand who they are and what they need. That self-awareness becomes their compass. And when you're guided by that, your relationships shift. You stop over-explaining. You stop begging for consistency. You stop accepting bare minimum effort. You start choosing people who meet you with the same honesty and depth you bring. This is not about being hard. It's about being whole. It's about no longer shrinking to make others comfortable, no longer muting your needs to avoid conflict. It's about standing firm in the truth of who you are and letting that truth shape the love you allow into your life. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. So when you become a woman who is fully herself, unapologetically, consistently, deeply, your energy shifts. You stop chasing clarity. You become clarity. You stop hoping to be chosen. You realize you've already chosen yourself. And that changes everything. Because when you are fully you, the right love never feels out of reach. It finds you because you finally found yourself. When a woman steps fully into her worth, something powerful happens. She stops negotiating with doubt. She stops entertaining what drains her. She stops confusing availability with compatibility. She no longer sees herself through the eyes of someone who couldn't value her. She begins to rewrite the story she once believed about love, not with fantasy, but with clarity. And that clarity sets her free. Free from cycles that left her anxious. Free from roles that demanded she abandon her truth. Free from relationships that felt like war zones. She no longer finds comfort in struggle. She finds strength in peace. The women who attract the most grounded, respectful, committed men aren't the ones trying to prove their worth. They're the ones living it. Every choice they make reflects it. Every conversation, every boundary, every pause before reacting, it all stems from the unshakable belief that their love is a gift, not a currency. They're not afraid to be alone because they no longer see solitude as a punishment. They see it as a preparation, a strengthening, a sacred pause where self-worth is no longer theory, but reality. And when worth becomes reality, desperation disappears. That's when you stop seeking attention and start recognizing alignment. Being deeply rooted in your worth means you don't rush. You don't settle for crumbs when you were meant for depth. You understand that emotional maturity matters more than momentary excitement. That consistency means more than chemistry. That intention speaks louder than attraction. You begin to see clearly, not through the lens of fear or fantasy, but through the calm eyes of wisdom. And that wisdom doesn't make you harder. It makes you softer in the right places. Softer with yourself, gentler with your healing, but firm in what you know you deserve. There's a different energy in someone who no longer chases approval. It's the energy of quiet certainty. She doesn't broadcast her standards, they're felt. She doesn't explain her boundaries, they're respected. She doesn't beg for love, she embodies it. And because of that, she naturally repels anything rooted in insecurity, games, or emotional immaturity. She's not playing hard to get. She's just fully aligned with what's right for her. That inner stability becomes her filter, and that filter becomes her freedom. You don't have to force love to happen. You don't have to beg someone to see your light. You don't have to lose yourself trying to be enough. You are already enough. But you must first believe it so deeply that it becomes the language your soul speaks. You must believe it so fully that your life begins to reflect it. Not just in words, but in how you choose, how you respond, and how you let go. That belief builds a foundation no one can shake. And when your foundation is strong, you stop trying to be chosen. You become the one who chooses. With clarity, with power, with love that begins within. That is the root of true attraction. Not what you get from others, but what you refuse to take from yourself. When you fully embrace your worth, you stop confusing effort with alignment. You recognize that not every connection deserves a home in your life. You begin to understand that just because someone wants you doesn't mean they are right for you. That kind of clarity doesn't make you colder. It makes you wiser. It sharpens your instincts and softens your tolerance for chaos. You no longer waste your energy trying to be seen by someone who lacks the capacity to value you. Instead, you invest in becoming someone who sees herself so clearly that she can no longer be overlooked. Emotional maturity changes how you move. It changes what you accept, what you respond to, what you give your time to. You no longer chase emotional highs that crash into confusion. You don't hold on to people who make you question your value. You don't give second chances to patterns that broke you the first time, because you've learned to stop making excuses for behavior that disrupts your peace. You've stopped romanticizing potential. You've started honoring patterns. And in that shift, you've reclaimed your power, not with anger, but with truth. The right energy no longer excites you if it lacks consistency. Words don't impress you if they aren't backed by action. Apologies don't move you if they're not followed by change. You've learned that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice, a pattern, a daily effort to show up. And if someone's presence brings more confusion than clarity, more questions than peace, more pain than growth, you choose to walk away. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much to keep shrinking. Your presence becomes more intentional. You stop trying to fit in spaces that were never built for your depth. You don't force understanding. You don't beg for emotional availability. You become so grounded in your inner world that any chaos on the outside feels unnatural. And when something feels unnatural, you don't adjust to tolerate it. You walk toward alignment. That kind of self-respect doesn't just protect you, it empowers you. It strengthens the way you love, the way you connect, the way you live. You were not created to carry love that depletes you. You were not meant to perform for connection. You were meant to stand in your fullness and be met with depth. Real, reciprocal, emotionally healthy depth. But that depth can only find you when you stop abandoning yourself for shallow comfort. You are not too much. You are not too complicated. You are not too deep. You are simply tuned in to the truth of who you are. And that truth deserves a love that feels like peace, not survival. The work isn't in becoming more lovable. The work is in remembering that you already are. And when you embody that remembrance, you don't chase what's missing. You attract what matches. Because your life will always reflect what you believe you deserve. And the moment you decide you are worthy of more, the world will begin to mirror that belief back to you. When you begin to live from the belief that you are already enough, you stop letting rejection define you. You stop letting silence become a reflection of your worth. You stop letting someone's inability to love you properly become your narrative. You start realizing that what walks away was never meant to stay. That what resists you is not your mirror, but your redirection. And that the most powerful thing you can do is not prove yourself, but preserve yourself. Because not everyone deserves access to the parts of you that took years to rebuild. There is something magnetic about a woman who no longer waits to be validated. She doesn't seek approval to feel beautiful. She doesn't rely on attention to feel seen. She's done outsourcing her confidence. She's done giving her power to anyone who hasn't earned the right to hold it. Her radiance doesn't come from what she wears or how she looks. It comes from what she believes. And that belief becomes her armor, her clarity, her compass. She knows that real confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about being rooted in truth, rooted in wholeness, rooted in the quiet, knowing that she is enough without needing to be more. You rise the moment you stop trying to be chosen and start choosing yourself, not once, not occasionally, but daily, in how you speak to yourself, in what you tolerate, in the way you walk away when something costs your peace. That self-selection becomes your standard. And from that standard, you begin to attract love that mirrors your growth, not your wounds. Because what you settle for reflects what you believe about yourself. And what you allow teaches others how to love you. The strongest energy you can carry is self-respect. It isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, it doesn't beg, it simply exists in every decision you make. It's the silent boundary that says, I will not trade my peace for temporary company. I will not confuse being needed with being loved. I will not sacrifice myself to keep someone who doesn't even see me. That strength doesn't push love away. It makes space for the kind of love that honors you. You become magnetic when you move with intention, when you speak with purpose, when you no longer chase what isn't flowing, because when you stop watering dead things, you begin to flourish. Not from someone else's affection, but from your own alignment. And in that alignment, you stop craving, you start creating, you stop performing, you start being, and the love you attract from that place will never require you to shrink. It will never ask you to earn what should be freely given. Because now, you don't settle for emotional breadcrumbs. You are the banquet. You are the table. You are the place where love comes to rest, not because you demanded it, but because you became it. And nothing is more powerful than a woman who finally understands that the only permission she ever needed was her own. When you no longer live in reaction to other people's choices, you begin to reclaim your emotional freedom. You stop tying your happiness to someone else's presence. You stop letting someone's inconsistency determine your self-esteem. You stop rewriting yourself to fit into places that only understand fragments of who you are. You finally understand that you were never meant to compete for a seat at a table where love is earned through struggle. You were meant to build your own table, one grounded in worth, peace, and clarity. Because once you see your value, you can't unsee it. Once you taste wholeness, chaos loses its appeal. Every time you choose peace over pressure, you realign with your power. Every time you let silence speak louder than explanation, you confirm your self-trust. You no longer need to convince anyone of your heart. You no longer rush into spaces just to feel accepted. You move with the calm assurance that you are enough, even in your quietest moments. You protect your space because you understand that not all connection is nourishment. Some connections drain, confuse, and distort your reflection. And now, you've become too self-aware to allow anything to shrink you back into survival. Healing has taught you discernment. You see beyond charm, you listen beyond words, you observe energy, you pay attention to patterns. You know that someone who genuinely wants you will not leave you in confusion. They won't keep you guessing, doubting, or begging. They'll show up. They'll be clear. They'll align, not because you demanded it, but because it's who they are. And until that energy finds you, you are not afraid to wait. You are not afraid to stand alone, because alone no longer means lacking. It means full, whole, grounded. And when you're grounded, you stop trying to prove your worth. You start protecting it. Attraction isn't about appearance. It's about alignment. The energy you carry determines the energy you draw in. When your standards rise, your life filters itself. Not everyone will make it through that filter. Not everyone is supposed to. And that's not rejection. That's protection. You stop seeing loss as something being taken from you. You see it as something being cleared for you. Cleared to make room for what's real, what's steady, what's aligned with the woman you've become. This is where transformation takes root. In the silence where you choose yourself. In the moments where you don't chase. In the decisions where you say no without guilt. In the shifts where you no longer need chaos to feel alive. You've outgrown games. You've outgrown confusion. You've outgrown the version of you who once called pain a soulmate. Now, your standard is peace. Your currency is clarity. Your power is presence. And your life begins to reflect the love you've been giving yourself. That's how you attract the best. Not by needing more, but by becoming more of who you were always meant to be. When you fully embrace the truth of your value, you begin to radiate a confidence that isn't loud, but undeniable. This confidence does not seek validation from others because it knows its own source. It moves quietly but powerfully, drawing in respect, admiration, and genuine connection like a force of nature. You no longer perform to impress. You simply exist in your truth. This kind of energy is magnetic because it's authentic, rooted in self-love and unwavering boundaries. It invites the right people into your life, those who see you as whole, not pieces to be fixed or puzzles to be solved. The women who attract the best men are not chasing approval or clinging to temporary attention. They hold a clear vision of what they deserve and refuse to settle for less. Their hearts are guarded not by walls of fear, but by fences of wisdom. They know that love is not scarcity, it is abundance. There is enough for everyone who is willing to give and receive it honestly, so they don't compete, manipulate, or diminish themselves to win affection. They rise by lifting their standards and nurturing their souls. This elevated mindset becomes a beacon, signaling to the universe and to others that they are ready for a love that matches their depth and devotion. True attraction stems from alignment, not desperation. It grows from a woman's ability to live fully and freely, independent of external validation. When you stop trying to fit into someone else's expectations, you open space for your authentic self to thrive. This liberation allows you to be seen, not for what you can give, but for who you are. That authenticity is irresistible because it speaks to something deep within others, the desire for real connection, honesty, and emotional availability. When you embody these qualities, you become a sanctuary for love, not a battlefield. Your energy sets the tone for the relationships you attract. If you carry peace within, you will draw in peace. If you carry clarity, you will invite clarity. When your internal world is balanced and aligned, external chaos loses its power over you. This harmony acts like a filter, gently removing what no longer serves your growth and paving the way for what elevates you. You begin to see love not as a project to be worked on, but as a partnership to be celebrated. This shift changes everything. You no longer seek to complete yourself through someone else. Instead, you offer your completeness as a gift. Embracing your worth means choosing yourself daily, through every thought, word, and action. It means saying no to what harms your spirit and yes to what nurtures your growth. It requires courage to stand alone and faith to believe that the right love will meet you in your wholeness. This courage is the foundation for deep transformation. It allows you to move beyond old fears and limiting beliefs. It opens the door to a new reality where love is not a struggle but a source of strength, joy, and peace. This is the power of self-respect. It's the quiet force that changes how you love, how you live, and how you attract. When you honor yourself fully, you create a life where the best love naturally finds its way to you, because you are no longer chasing it. You are embodying it. When you cultivate a heart anchored in self-awareness, you start to see the difference between longing and genuine desire. Longing often masks insecurity. It whispers that you are incomplete, that you need another to fill a void. Genuine desire, on the other hand, arises from fullness. It's a call to share your abundance, not to seek it. This subtle but powerful shift rewires your entire approach to love. You stop chasing what isn't aligned and begin inviting what is. You stop seeking permission to be loved and give yourself unconditional acceptance instead. In this space, attraction becomes effortless because it's not about getting, it's about giving, from a place of wholeness. Self-awareness sharpens your emotional intelligence. It trains you to recognize the signals your heart sends when something serves your growth or hinders it. This clarity is a profound form of self-respect. It prevents you from tolerating toxic patterns or settling for less than you deserve. When you understand your own emotional needs deeply, you can communicate them without fear or hesitation. This communication is magnetic because it demonstrates authenticity and courage. You become a woman who knows her boundaries and expresses them without apology. This strength draws in men who are equally clear, confident, and ready for real connection. The power of attraction lies not in physical beauty alone, but in the harmony between your inner world and your outward presence. When you nurture your mind, heart, and spirit, you radiate a unique energy that no makeup or outfit can replicate. This energy is built on the foundation of mental clarity, emotional balance, and spiritual alignment. It speaks louder than words. It tells a story of resilience, growth, and unconditional self-love. Men who are drawn to this energy seek to match it with their own authenticity. They are not interested in surface-level encounters, but in meaningful exchanges that honor both parties fully. Your consistent commitment to personal growth creates a ripple effect. As you evolve, so do your relationships. You attract those who are on a similar path, people who challenge you to rise, who support your dreams, and who respect your journey. This alignment eliminates confusion and doubt. It replaces uncertainty with confidence and fear with faith. The best men don't simply enter your life by chance. They are invited by the vibration you set through your thoughts, choices, and actions. When you prioritize yourself with intention, the universe responds by matching your energy with what is worthy of your presence. You must trust the timing of your growth. Sometimes the greatest test of your worthiness is learning to wait. Waiting without anxiety, without desperation, without compromise. This patience is an act of love for yourself above all else. It reinforces the message that you are not willing to sacrifice your peace for a temporary connection. This steady faith transforms waiting from a place of lack into a space of empowerment. It gives you the courage to hold out for what aligns with your highest good. And in this waiting, you refine your desires, sharpen your intuition, and deepen your self-respect. When you embrace this process fully, you become unstoppable. Your inner transformation becomes a magnet not only for love, but for every area of your life. You move with purpose, speak with clarity, and act with integrity. You attract the best men not because you chase them, but because you are the woman who embodies the love they seek. This is the power of intentional living, the power of becoming before receiving. And when you step into this truth, everything changes. True power emerges when you fully embrace your independence, not as a shield to keep others out, but as a foundation from which you build your life. This independence is a declaration. Your happiness does not depend on anyone else's presence or approval. It is a bold statement that you are whole, capable, and complete on your own. This is the energy that attracts. Not neediness, not desperation, but strength and freedom. Men who come into your life because of this power are drawn not to fix you or complete you, but to walk beside you as equals. They respect the space you've created and are inspired by the light you shine from within. Living from this place of independence means you no longer accept less than what honors your soul. You recognize the difference between companionship and codependence. You no longer fear solitude because you understand that being alone is a sacred time to reconnect with yourself and recharge your spirit. This solitude deepens your self-love and reinforces your boundaries. You become selective not out of fear of loss, but out of reverence for your worth. This reverence cultivates patience, wisdom, and clarity. You realize that attracting the best men requires you to first become the best version of yourself, not through external changes, but through inner growth. The clarity that comes with independence sharpens your vision of what you want and what you won't tolerate. It empowers you to say no with grace and yes with confidence. When you are clear about your values, desires, and non-negotiables, you stop confusing love with convenience or comfort. You reject relationships that feel like obligations or transactions. Instead, you seek partnerships that ignite your passion, challenge your growth, and celebrate your authenticity. This clarity does not alienate. It attracts the right people who resonate deeply with your true self. It creates a magnetic field that pulls in those aligned with your frequency. When you stand firmly in your independence, you shift the dynamics of attraction. You no longer need to chase or prove your worth. Instead, your presence alone commands respect and admiration. Your silence becomes a statement. Your boundaries become a fortress. Your self-respect becomes a beacon that guides others toward you with honesty and intention. Men who see this strength are inspired to rise to meet it, not because they feel pressured, but because they recognize the value of partnering with someone who honors herself fully. This mutual respect lays the groundwork for love that is deep, sustainable, and transformative. This journey toward independence is